Hey guys, how's it going? So, I was watching a TISM stream, right? And learned about this video. Of course, naturally, I don't get any notifications anymore from people who I don't watch as often. In other words, Greg here hasn't really uploaded very many videos. He doesn't upload them super often. So even with the bell dinged and all that, I don't get notifications. Kind of like that with Bearing as well. He uploaded a video like 2 weeks ago, and I just watched it like a few days ago. It's ridiculous. Just because when you're infrequent, you don't get notifications. But apparently when you're frequent, you also don't get notifications, so go figure. Yeah. So anyway, I was watching TISM stream, and they told me, or they didn't tell me about this, but they were talking about this. I decided to check it out for myself. For the most part, his whole PragerU University thing that he's talking about, it's not as bad as I thought. Yeah, he doesn't make as many points, but he does make a few points. I'll give him credit to that. Yeah, PragerU University looks like it's kind of a dumb thing, you know? Looks like they are anti-science. I get it. If you want to fight them, fight them. I'm not super interested in fighting creationists anymore, mainly because I'm not atheist, right? I'm more agnostic than anything, but I'm borderline atheist. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not necessarily very religious, but I'm not going to be like, look, there's no such thing as God, because I don't know. I legit don't know. Why would I ever say that? I can't prove there is or isn't. And I know, it's a silly argument, right? You can't prove there's a flying spaghetti monster. You can't prove there's not. I get it. But religions have been around for a very, 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 very long time. They could be just stories of things they couldn't explain. Or maybe not. Maybe something was divine. I don't know. I don't care. I'll find out one day after death. More or less. So I'm just leaving it at that. I've never been super interested in fighting creationism until quite a few years ago, when I really went hardcore against it whenever they would say silly things like Harry Potter isn't real. Or Harry Potter isn't real. Harry Potter's bad for you. You can't watch it. It represents real Satanism and stuff like that. And it's just like, nah, man. It's a fun thing. I wasn't allowed to play Pokemon. My parents, my family never stopped me from doing any of that. But I would get frowned upon looks. I'd be, school would even teach you that it's the devil and stuff. I'm here in Oklahoma. And teachers would interject and things like that. That got cracked down on pretty hard, though. That's when I was really against all that, because I was like, man, that's really ridiculous. That's really ridiculous stuff. So that's whenever I fought against creationism, things like that. But now that it's not prevalent like that anymore, I don't care about what people believe in, and I don't care that they're trying to talk other people into it. People who are going to go into creationism are going to go into it. Okay? As long as they're not physically harming anyone, I don't really care. Okay? It's the same thing with, being Muslim. I'm not for it. I think it's a lot more violent of a religion, but the peaceful ones are peaceful. Don't really care. As long as they are peaceful. It's whenever they're doing harmful things. Look, if somebody just wants to refuse science, okay, it doesn't hurt anything. Now, we get into Jordan Peterson here with Armored Skeptic and climate change. This is where things get rocky and interesting, and I'm going to point out quite a few things to Greg here. Now, I love Greg. Absolutely love Armored Skeptic. I love that stuff. There's times where he uploads, in my opinion, really stupid videos. He realizes it, admits it, and learns from it, but then for some reason kind of unlearns it. At the beginning of the video, he ends up talking about the Skeptic clones again. I don't know if he's joking, so I'm going to say that right now. Don't know if he's joking about it, poking some fun. I don't know, but not really something I would have joked about that much later in without making it very clear that it's a joke. My green screen. There we go. Ish. So, I don't know. It didn't seem like a joke. And what's his name? I just forgot his name. Did a video over it, and I thought Greg had learned from it. Shoot, I forgot his name now. I don't know. It really confused me as to why he made that particular comment, because we all know he's not the original skeptic that came on the internet. So anyway, going into this 5-minute rant here, let's go ahead and just get started with this. And like I said, I'm not against Greg here. I'm more or less just making a response here that doesn't make sense. I've made stupid videos, and I've learned from them. So I try to do more research, and it seems like he kind of fell right into the same mistake again. You guys will see. Also, I dig that he's looking more and more like Styx, with the hair. Almost the exact Styx haircut.
Their fake university by inviting real PhDs onto their show, like the infamous Dr. Jordan B. Peterson.
And now we rack up education-related debt, not so that our children learn to think critically, write clearly, or speak properly.
I've been meaning to make a whole video about Jordan Peterson for a while now. I mean, I made a sloppy video about postmodernism a while back, which was really supposed to be a response to his over-exaggeration of the problems with postmodernism and the postmodernists.
You are currently funding some dangerous people. They are the postmodernists, pushing progressive activism at a college near you.
Anyways, Jordan Peterson's whole brand has become like a message of personal responsibility. Clean your room. It's the whole purpose of his book. It's
actually not the purpose, so that's where I'm going to interject. That's not the purpose of his book. Personal responsibility is part of the purpose of his book, right? But what he's saying is there's a bunch of young people that go out here, and they want to change the world. And they essentially think by changing the world, they're just going to go up to a bunch of people and scream at them, yell at them, other things like that. And that they want to implement a system that has been proven millions and millions of times over not to work, okay? They do this a lot, okay? Instead of focusing on their own self-responsibility, because a lot of people that end up going out and they want all this climate change and stuff done, they want, UBI, they want socialism, they want things along those lines, right? Usually they're hand in hand with each other, and he's speaking about these specific people that want this. Usually they are not very responsible in their own lives. They want to be taken care of by the government because they have more or less failed. At least in their minds, they failed. They're 24, 25-year-old kids, and they're like, oh, I should have already been graduated from college and had my career going and all this. And it's like, dude, you're 24, 25 years old. Life's just beginning. Relax. Leave it to the older people who actually know a thing or two. Okay? That's more or less what he's trying to say, is learn how to clean your room is a metaphor. In other words, it's learn how to take care of yourself before you take care of other people. Right now, a great example, United States and Canada, there's no way all these young people can come aboard and say, we need socialism, we need to have all of our stuff paid for, we need free college, we need free healthcare, we need all this stuff, the government pay for it all, and it be sustainable. It's not, it won't work that way. It just can't work that way. But these young people don't understand why it won't work that way. And they don't do any research whatsoever on their own. They just simply will it to be that way, okay? Do you even understand what Jordan Peterson's really against? It should be very obvious. He's against social justice warrior types. I mean, he's pretty much on your side, man. I don't think you understand, though. He doesn't argue against people who are for climate change, or for stopping climate change, right? But I don't think you... I guess I'll get to all that.
Crazy book. Now, this is a really important message that an entire generation of lost boys was thirsty to hear. The most common criticism Peterson has received over his clean your room message is that only helps.
You're right, it is a clean your room message. You did get that part right. I just don't think you understand it to a vast degree there. Like I said, it's not about actually cleaning your room. It's about taking care of yourself before trying to take care of others. If you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your grandma. You see what I'm saying? You would screw up both of your lives.
It's up to a certain point.
If a young person believes that the problem on the climate is something that needs to be tackled quickly, and they can't wait until they grow up and become prime ministers to do it, do you think collective responsibility overrides individual responsibility in a huge issue like that?
No.
Even right-wing critics of Peterson have pointed this out. What good is a clean room when the world is full of degeneracy? What good is a clean room when the world is burning around you? And the thing is, they're right. Not about the degeneracy, but about Peterson pushing a message of apathy towards grand...
I don't understand. Is the world around us burning, though? Like, I think that's quite a bit of an exaggeration. I don't think that's the way it is. And this is my biggest kind of criticism towards a lot of this. And I probably should get to this later, but I figure I'll just say it now and then repeat myself so people kind of get it. We could do everything correctly in the United States and Canada. Okay? Jordan Peterson can go around and let's say he just uses his power here for good. Tells everyone, oh, you all must end climate change. You know, we all need to get Teslas and all that. That's fantastic and all. It's not going to change a thing. And I know that's shocking, right? It's not going to change a thing because guess who you're not going to convince? China. You're not going to convince India. You're not going to convince any other country that pollutes 1,000 times more than us. You're never going to convince them to be able to switch. It's not going to happen. So just ride the wave, man. If this is causing climate change, which more than likely it is, right? I'm not a climate scientist, so I'm not going to claim that it is. But more than likely, we could probably agree that probably is causing it. It ain't stopping. There's nothing you can do. So instead of wrecking everyone else's lives, maybe we shouldn't do all that. And maybe we should just let it ride out, right? I know, it sucks. It's like, no, how in the world could you say that? Well, because I'm living in reality. You're not stopping China. Not without nuclear bombs.
Grander issues that we face in the world today. Peterson has literally mocked the concept of activism as if it can only be a meaningless display of virtue.
So Dr. Peterson, you talk about this idea of ending unnecessary suffering and this idea of committing one's life to that.
At a minimum. I mean, that's just the obvious thing that you could do.
A lot of students, I think, accept that premise and view what they're doing as trying to eliminate or reduce unnecessary suffering, and they see activism or other forms of direct service as fulfilling that goal. Do you simply disagree with like the content of what they think, the tactic that they are using?
It's too public. You know, there's this old saying from the New Testament about not praying in public, demonstrating how virtuous you are to the world. Mm-hmm. It's like, you know, you go out there with a stick and a sign on it that says, I'm against poverty. It's like, yeah, no kidding, man. Really. Like, who's for poverty? No one's for poverty. You want to solve a difficult problem is you figure out how to get along with your brother, the one you've been fighting with for 5 years, or see if you can staple your family back together. See if you can stop fighting with your girlfriend and have a relationship that lasts for more than 2 weeks. There are things that you should be doing in the confines of your own life that are private and humble, that would constitute genuine accomplishments, and those are the things that you should attend to.
And there's no better video on the entire internet to demonstrate what I mean than this one.
I think generally...
Well, I'm kind of curious, though. Like, when has legitimately picketing climate change, how is that going to work for other countries? You're never going to see China do that. You're never going to see India do that. You're never going to see Taiwan do that. There's so many countries out there that I think we're kind of forgetting about. It's just not going to change it. Like I said, we could change here all day long, okay? We take picketing a little bit more seriously over here in the United States, even though it doesn't really do all that much. And I got to agree. If you want to do something, if you want to make change, instead of going out there and becoming a full-time activist, which I have to agree, becoming an activist is incredibly silly, right? It really is. And I get that you're against that, Greg. But wouldn't it be much better to do what Jordan Peterson says? In that sense, get the relationship going, doing all that. Do you know what that leads to? probably becoming successful in a way to where you become a politician, possibly. Running for office, doing things like that, legitimately making change, that's where he's going to. And you know why I know all this? Believe it or not, I didn't read his book. But I did listen to him on Joe Rogan's entire podcast there. And I've listened to him with Sargon. I've listened to him talk to quite a few different people where he doesn't, well, how would I say it? Insinuate this. He doesn't sit there and like make you guess that's what he's talking about or all that. He directly says it. If people were to do this, clean their room, become more responsible, they could literally become politicians and do this themselves, or become the climate scientists and become these people and actually work together to figure out how to solve this issue without screwing up millions of people's lives. Jordan Peterson is a psychologist. He's not a climate scientist. He doesn't deny climate change. He just doesn't like social justice warriors. He doesn't like the way they do things. He's literally saying, if you become a social justice warrior, your future is dead. You will not accomplish anything. You will grow up lonely and become bitter. That's all Jordan Peterson's saying. He said that a lot. You missed a lot of what Jordan Peterson has actually said. And that's not very good research. You have his book that you didn't understand, and I get it. Without understanding what his book meant, it would be weird, right? But I know what the book means because he's told us what the book means on a lot of different podcast shows. But you seem to have, I'm going to assume this, that you've only really heard about Jordan Peterson and then listened to his stuff on PragerU. I'm guessing maybe you found a couple other clips here and there. I don't know your deep knowledge of Jordan Peterson, but I do know you haven't looked that far into him because those are things he talks about all the time of what his book's about, what he means, what he believes in, what he thinks about social justice warriors who picket all day long and become activists. And the reason why he knows this stuff is because he's a psychologist. He knows what that does to people mentally. He knows how they turn out. I would actually say that he's an expert in that field.
People have things that are more within their personal purview that are more difficult to deal with and that they're avoiding, and that generally the way they avoid them is by adopting pseudo-moralistic stances on large-scale social issues so that they look good to their friends and their neighbors.
An audience member asks Peterson, if we're stuck at home all day cleaning our room, then how are we ever going to fix any of the problems out in the world?
So what is your advice to young people when you talk about you need to be individually responsible, but when there are things that are so far out of our control, like climate catastrophe, like the precarious job economy, like the economic crisis?
You know, it's interesting. She actually kind of answered her own question. What about things that are so out of our control like this? Well, they're out of your control. So what are you going to do anyway? What's the point?
Of your control as you think.
What is your answer?
And he says they're not as far out of your control as you think. And he's correct on that. But somehow you missed that.
Do you think that you're worse off than you think that you're worse off than your grandparents?
Note that the question is not, is climate change real? The question is, how do we enact change in the world by following your steps? But Peterson doesn't want to answer that question because he knows that if he does, he'll sound retarded.
I think there are...
Well, if that's the case, then probably all the other times where he says, I'm not a climate scientist, I am a psychiatrist, he fully admits that. So I don't understand the point, man. I actually don't understand your point on that. But think of it this way, right? If he's telling the girl, what can young people do? Well, this is what he's saying. Young people can first learn how to be responsible. Young people then can become older people and enact change. That's his message. And he makes that very, very clear. But you don't want that answer. You want an answer to what can young people do. And his answer is young people cannot do. And that doesn't work for you. And I think you're missing that. I don't think you're refusing to have that as an answer necessarily. I don't think you want that as an answer. But I think you actually missed that. He does not think people can do anything. Young people. He thinks they're too irresponsible, which most of them are. I mean, you'd have to agree with that, right? Most young people are irresponsible. Not everybody is super responsible at the age of 25 and can act anything like that. No 25-year-old out there is going to be able to prevent climate change. That's just simply a fact.
Different challenges.
Do you think you're worse off than your grandparents?
This is the most useless shit.
The argument, I think, is individual responsibility does not change the climate, does not fix the problem.
Fundamentally, I'm a psychologist. My experience has been that people can do a tremendous amount of good for themselves and for the people who are immediately around them by looking to their own inadequacies and their own flaws and starting to build themselves up as more powerful individuals. And if they're capable of doing that,
Exactly. That's exactly correct. They build themselves up to be more powerful individuals later on in life when they take care of themselves and learn responsibility. In other words, politicians, in other words, heads of CEOs, or CEOs of companies, that they can then hire on the proper people to help cut back on emissions. They can become the people who help cut back on emissions, the scientists and all that themselves. That's what Jordan Peterson's saying here. I don't know your qualm. I don't understand, like, how you missed this, to be honest. That's kind of what's bothering me about this whole Jordan Peterson thing.
then they're capable of expanding their career. And if they're capable of
expanding their career
and their competence, then they're capable of taking their place in the community as effective leaders. And have never suggested that there's no domain for social action. I'm suggesting that people who don't have their own houses in order.
Okay, only successful people matter and should be allowed to demand positive change to our society. That's not what he's saying. He's saying if you're not a successful person, then how can you succeed in changing society? You essentially do have to be successful. But he's not saying it's only successful people who matter. He's saying if you're not a successful person, how can you possibly succeed in doing this? You have to learn how to succeed in order to succeed. It's kind of simple math. You have to have 1 + 1 to equal 2. If you don't have another 1, you're not getting 2. I'm legitimately confused about this. I don't understand how you came to this conclusion being a skeptic, right? And me just being a skeptic clone shouldn't have had an easier time with this, right?
Should be very careful before they go about reorganizing the world.
Now you might be thinking, this isn't fair. This is supposed to be a video about how bad PragerU is. Well, I wouldn't have even known that this video existed if PragerU hadn't tweeted it, complete with boomer captions.
I think you kind of admit it there. You wouldn't have known about any of this that Jordan Peterson has done without looking into PragerU. And PragerU is not the place you want to go to find out more about Jordan Peterson. By this point in time, Jordan Peterson being on PragerU, he has already announced most of the things about himself. There's a lot of research you need to go back and do.
I think generally people have things that are more within their personal purview that are more difficult to deal with and that they're avoiding, and that generally the way they avoid them is by adopting pseudo-moralistic stances on large-scale social issues so that they look good to their friends and their neighbors.
PragerU uploaded this as a win for climate skepticism. What? And to solidify that Jordan Peterson perfectly encapsulates the values of PragerU,
Man. Come on. That's such a low blow. Just because PragerU uploads it as a win against climate activism doesn't mean Jordan Peterson thought it was a win against climate activism, and he said that himself, that he doesn't think that people don't need to do that. Jordan Peterson's not a climate change denier. I don't know where you got that information from. PragerU clearly is. Yeah, I see that, because of what they posted. I get that. And I haven't done much research into PragerU, so I'm not going to defend them. I'm not going to attack them. But I do know Jordan Peterson, a lot of his material. And that's just a low blow. But let's see his point here real quick about this encapsulating Jordan Peterson.
I want fairness generally means, look at me, I'm a nice person.
Dennis Prager invited Jordan Peterson onto his channel to push his message of personal responsibility.
Blaming others for your problems is a complete waste of time. I've learned that there are two fundamental attitudes toward life and its sorrows. Those with the first attitude blame the world. Those with the second ask what they could do differently. Instead of bringing trouble to yourself, your family, and your society, you'll be a positive and reliable force.
I don't think this was even a video against climate change. I think this was just Jordan Peterson simply explaining to people to be more responsible. I didn't see anything about this being an anti-climate change video or a climate change denying video. I get it. The top 100 companies cause 72% of global emissions. The top 100 companies also run out of China. So what the hell do you think is going to be done? Waving your sign in front of a corporation here in America is not going to do anything. And it is pretty pointless and stupid. Becoming head CEO of that company and learning how to cut down on emissions over in China, when you're running that company, that's success. That's learning how to take care of yourself. That's taking responsibility, and that's becoming successful. You missed Jordan Peterson's message, man. Honestly, you missed his message hardcore. And I'm really disappointed in that. This is probably where I'm going to stop the video because, of course, we all know it goes on from here and I don't have much more time. 26 minutes in, I don't want to go past 30 minutes on this at all. I wanted to be careful and really hit the nail on the head several times with this. Just because it's silly. It's really, really silly. This was simple research you could have done on Jordan Peterson, man. And you would have gotten there. I get it. You think he's bad because he's on PragerU, okay? And you don't like PragerU. Isn't that what the social justice warriors always argue against, though? Is that, you give this guy a platform, all of a sudden he's agreeing with them? I mean, that's literally like saying Sargon is a Nazi because he debated Richard Spencer. Or he's a Nazi because he had Milo Yiannopoulos on there, which we all know he's not anything like that. But you get what I'm saying. That's what social justice warriors say. Well, Sargon lines his views up with Andy Worski because he went on his channels. Sargon does not agree with Andy Worski on most things. You know what I'm saying? Andy Worski doesn't agree that often with Sargon. Just because they were both on each other's channel doesn't mean that that's the way it is. Just because Jordan Peterson's on Prager University does not mean he agrees with everything Prager University is saying. I'm kind of blown away by this. Skeptic, you keep doing this, man. You do this a little too often. Before you make a video this in-depth, calling somebody out, do some good research on them. And it's not just a shot against you, either. I need to be a little bit better about that as well when I call certain people out, okay? And I really try to not. And back in the day that happened, a few years ago that happened a couple times. I don't allow that to happen anymore. And if I find out that I'm wrong about something, usually I'll either take the video down or I will completely apologize in the comment section, be like, hey, watch this video of me being a complete idiot, by the way, and I was wrong. Usually I'll take the video down just to prevent misleading people. So this was not a good shot at Jordan Peterson. It just came off as very much a lack of research. It came off arrogant with the whole skeptic clone thing again. But like I said, I don't know if that was a joke or not. Given the benefit of the doubt on that. But like I said, that's how it came off, and I'm not trying to be mean. I still love Skeptic. I still love his videos. I did a video on Shoe on Head over Bernie Sanders as well, And I said the same thing. I'm still going to watch her videos. I still enjoy a lot of the stuff she says. You know what I mean? But I gave my criticism where criticism's due. And you know what? If Skeptic did go through one of my videos and completely made an ass out of me on one of my videos, I think that's fair and fine too. I wouldn't be mad at him for it. Especially if there's a video up there right now that is me completely screwing up and he's got grounds to ream me, like, go for it. You know, I will take it fairly. Not that he probably won't even see this video, to be honest. I'm too small for that, unfortunately. But that's kind of my thoughts on this. And man, this went over 30 minutes. I wish I could have wrapped this up in 10. But unfortunately, not the way it worked out. But I don't know. What did you guys think of this video? Am I being ridiculous? Is he being ridiculous? You know, just keep in mind that I am still a fan of his. You know, I still do like the guy. I wish he would have just looked into this a little bit more. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.